I was finally about to get around to sharing the story of a recent community medicinal root harvest in London, and was just scanning the news first when I learned of a group of Hondurans seeking asylum being tear gassed at the US-Mexico border. Like so many others, mine is a story of migration. I am sitting in Brighton, a city south of London by the sea, but was born in and grew up on the other side of the Atlantic in and around New York. My parents were born in Pakistan, and their parents were born in Uttar Pradesh, India, but had to leave their homes along with millions of others during partition, which remains the largest mass movement of people in history. Pakistan has many problems, but it is the world's largest host of refugees, according to the UNHCR. So I can't quite comprehend the response of wealthier nations like the US, France, and UK toward people fleeing violence and crises, often ones they had a hand in creating. There are so many heartbreaking situations occurring around the world, but it's heartening to hear of and be inspired by people using their skills and talents to serve the vulnerable. For those of us in the herbal world, one of the ways we can help is by sharing plant medicine. While we all hope and work in our various capacities to ensure people have basic rights like food and shelter, plant medicine has an important part in assisting people experiencing physical and emotional distress. One of my inspirations has been Lorna Mani Broddick, who set up the Herbalista network of solidarity projects in Atlanta and Dublin. I've had the pleasure of meeting Lorna on her visits to the UK over the past few years and learning from her, and this year had the opportunity to start developing similar projects in London and Brighton with fellow community herbalists. So on an overcast day in November, a small band of plant lovers gathered at a corner of a little nature reserve in East London to harvest the roots of elecampane. Elecampane, Inula helenium, was one of several wild plants gracing the medicinal field at Phytology, a project I had been supporting over the summer. Phytology is a unique arts, ecology, and cultural project exploring the function of wild and the relations between human and other than human nature in an urban space. I had been working in the medicinal garden, helping to maintain an amicable balance of different plants in a wild-looking field, and introducing visitors to the medicinal virtues of native plants. This year, the tall and statuesque elecampane plants dominated the small garden, compromising the growth of smaller plants such as chamomile. Since we needed to remove many of these plants anyway, I thought it would be a good idea to organize a solidarity medicinal root harvest where people could get involved in the root to medicine process. I consulted with Melissa Ronaldson, an herbalist part of the Herbalists Without Borders London network, who has been regularly going out to France to distribute herbal medicine to the many refugees living there without proper shelter. Melissa agreed that it was worth trying out, as even a modest amount of elecampane would be really useful in the winter, and also just to try out this process of sourcing and processing herbs within the community. Elecampane has been used in many herbal traditions to support respiratory and digestive ailments, making it valuable in supporting refugees and others living unconscionably without shelter and who are very exposed to the elements. Compared to other kinds of herbs that are commonly grown in gardens or are just prolific in the wild, like nettle, elecampane is harder to come by, and herbalists generally need to purchase it, so it was a treasure. A solidarity root harvest seemed appropriate given the subversive strand underpinning the various projects of phytology. So back to that November day of the root harvest, it had been raining right up until shortly before we started, and I was anxious about how many people would turn up, how it would all go. None of us had actually harvested elecampane. And although harvesting any part of plants should be done with reverence, it feels even more important with roots. We're disturbing the soil life. We're uprooting it. So I silently thanked the plants, hoping that they understood our intention. Before others arrived, 3 of us from Phytology got the tools and hose ready, and we tentatively did a trial, carefully digging in a circle about a foot out from the crown. Elecampane root grows quite horizontally, so we wanted to avoid hacking into it. With some gentle tugging, we pried the mound loose and admired the more hidden parts of this plant, whose aerial parts had been the stars of the garden over the summer. We set up a little washing station of sorts by the tiny wetland area on the site, a perfect place to pressure wash the roots. So starting out with just a few people, we began slowly unearthing the roots. Some people dug, others were at the washing station, others scraped the outer bark, and some cut down the stalks into smaller bits for composting. It was really uplifting to see people so engaged with the process. More people came along later, so we ended up with a pretty efficient setup. When all the plants that needed to be removed had been, we headed to a nearby community arts center, which kindly let us use their venue. There we did a final wash, and some volunteers chopped the root to prepare for drying. We also made a tea with the freshly cut root to have a taste, and admired the pale blue-green color of the tea, which matched its mouthwash-esque flavor. My friend, herbalist Rashik Ahmed, who's also a part of Herbalists Without Borders London, then led a session on winter remedies and demonstrated how to make a cough syrup using glycerin. I think because medicinal roots, beyond the common culinary ones, are still relatively less familiar to people compared to the aerial parts of medicinal plants, there was almost a sense of enchantment infusing the day. We also had a shared lunch with a variety of yummy contributions, and this allowed time and space for people to connect with each other more. A few people then took the chopped root home to dry, and after a few days, we ended up with nearly 600 grams of dried root. It was a small amount, but given that it was an unplanned yield, we were quite excited. Going forward, we're looking to get a network of people willing to grow some plants in their individual and community spaces, and to harvest and dry them to supply our efforts. But the root harvest event was much more than about just the actual harvest, although that was valuable. The connecting with the plants, the connecting with the ancient and universal tradition of herbal medicine making, and connecting with each other were so healing in the atomized urban context of London. It also felt great to be part of a wider movement of people doing similar things. And this event sparked off some connections and momentum for developing a more ongoing project to support vulnerable people like the homeless who live locally. So I'd encourage others who are interested to check out Herbalists Without Borders UK and Herbalista for more information about these kinds of projects. And you can also get in touch with me.
Hey everyone, this is Mason with Herb Rally. Just real quick, the audio cut out, so I wanted to provide you with the various ways you could get in contact with Shumaisa. And her email is shumaisa@gmail.com. That's SHUMAISA@gmail.com. And her website is shumaisakhan.com. All these links will be in the show notes, so just feel free to click on those, as well as the links to Phytology, as well as the Herbalists Without Borders UK website. But again, if you'd like to email her, you could shoot her an email at shumaisa@gmail.com. All right, thanks so much for listening, and until next time, take care.